There's something sinister afoot, absolutely.
Hello, everybody. Welcome in. We have ushered the new year in style. Have I talked to you guys since the New Year's? Not here, at least. Welcome to the Haymaker studio. I am your host, Slightly Biased, here at the Slightly Biased Show. You can check it out here on the Slightly Biased channel. If you're watching, leave a like, leave a comment, leave a subscribe. Hearts. Okay. Make sure you subscribe to the Haymaker channel down below. 50 of you in here right now, 2 likes. Are you out of your fucking mind? Sorry, I don't like starting the streams that angry sometimes, but I feel like it's actually worth it today. We got a busy show today, a great show. I've got my friend TrillBroDude here. Super pumped to have him on. And we're going to talk some hoops. We're going to talk some Mavs, Sixers. We're going to talk some rookie stuff because, I mean, this rookie class has just been absolutely incredible. Cooper Flagg, VJ Edgecombe, and that is how you say his name, and I can't get over that. But yes, Kanon, all of this stuff. We're going to talk some slop, NBA trade stuff, and we might draft our favorite Sixers of all time. Happy Jan 6 to everyone who celebrates. The 5-year anniversary. That's a different show for a different day. Once slightly geopolitics launches, then we can get into that. But for the time being, we're going to stick here to just some basketball talk. So happy to have you guys here. Happy to have my guy Trill here. So let's welcome him in. I can't even talk right now. My allergies are killing me. What's up, brother? How are we doing?
What's going on? I'm so glad that I'm here to be, placed in the cuck chair the day after the Sixers have lost to the end of the bench from the Denver Nuggets, and Penn State legend Jalen Pickett just, stuck a knife in my back. I'm a Penn State guy. I've always rooted for him. Yeah, unfortunately, Jalen Pickett, I literally called it before the game that Jalen Pickett was going to have a career game. I don't know if you heard this on the broadcast. He was shooting 8% from 3 on pull-ups for his career, and he had 7 pull-up threes last night. So that's the kind of night it was for the Sixers.
I heard all of them. I heard the Hunter Tyson was 19% from 3, Zeke Naji 18% from 3. It's funny because, in case you guys aren't aware of what he's talking about, the Nuggets beat the Sixers last night, 125-124. No shame in that. No Jokic, no Jamal Murray, no Christian Brown, no Jonas Valanciunas. Am I missing anybody?
No Aaron Gordon.
No Aaron Gordon. I mean, it really was a Disney Channel type performance. And it's really funny because I was telling you this before the show. I saw somebody on Twitter, a Sixers fan, who was like, this will be a 1-possession game in the fourth quarter, guaranteed.
Yep. I think my friend Mike Chiodo put it perfectly where he said, if the Sixers played the process Sixers, they would be up 5 in the last 5 minutes. And if they played the Golden State Warriors from the same year in 2016, they would be within 5 in the last 5 minutes. That's just kind of how they play. Like, they can beat anyone and they can lose to anyone on literally any given night.
I was thinking, is there any fan base out there that's like, oh, we're playing an end of bench group, like we got this tonight? I feel like every fan base in the league is like, we're about to fuck this up, aren't we? In a horrible, embarrassing way.
I feel like it is becoming more common now that those games happen. Well, mainly due to the fact that, the NBA has just kind of become a blood sport due to all the injuries, and these games happen more often. The hospital Memphis Grizzlies, every single year. We have the Pelicans, the Sixers last year. The Mavericks have gone through this a little bit at times as well. And it just feels like you never want to be on the other side because the downside is just like horribly embarrassing. So I think everyone is just praying that it doesn't happen to them. And, of course, it happened to us last night.
I mean, I wrote down some plays that were just hilarious to me because it really was like a Disney Channel movie. Jalen Pickett, we talked about his career high, I'm assuming. Like, there's no way that he's scored that many points in a game. How many career highs were we at in this game? Pickett for sure. Zeke Naji. At least a season high.
No, it was a career high.
Okay, career high for Zeke Naji. That one's great. I had somebody like double back on a YouTube video of mine. It was like, you talked all that shit about Zeke Naji. Did you see his game tonight? I'm like, yeah, I think I'll be okay in the long run on that one. But get it off your chest while you can. But Pickett had like some end of shot clock little floater, like little touch push shot as the shot clock was expiring. Peyton Watson had that crazy like 19-footer at the end of the shot clock. I mean, it was like every single insane shot that could have happened. Just hysterical game. If that were the Mavericks, I'd be like, yeah, that sounds about right that they just lost that game.
I think it was personal revenge on me because Zeke Naji's another guy that we've constantly said on the podcast. It's amazing to just look up his contract and see how much time is still left on his contract every few months, because he wasn't even in the rotation before the contract even started. So it's one of those things where it's like, it's a 4-year long contract, but he wasn't even playing for them by the time the contract started. So it feels longer than it actually is. And then the other one is Peyton Watson, who I was drunk on my draft night stream in 2022, and we were like, why are the Nuggets taking him in the first round? We laughed at the pick because we were like, he averaged 3 points a game. He barely played in college. Like, you just traded real stuff to get this pick. Why are you doing this? Well, turns out it was a genius move. He's actually pretty good, and he's kind of figuring himself out here in like year 4 or whatever it is.
NBA teams love doing that. High school player, top high school guy, we'll fix him. And sometimes it works, and sometimes it's just a complete and total colossal failure. Like, that's been the Warriors' MO forever. What was
exactly that same draft was Patrick Baldwin Jr. We laughed.
PBJ.
We laughed at that pick too. We were like, "This isn't. Why are either of these guys going in the first round?"
Is he still in the league?
He's like in the G League, I want to say. He might be on a 2-way somewhere, but he's not someone. And the difference between Watson and Patrick Baldwin Jr. is that Watson is like a crazy athlete in comparison to Patrick Baldwin Jr., who was just not an NBA level athlete. Like, he's big and skilled. He couldn't hang with NBA level athletes.
See, I couldn't be a GM, or maybe I could, because maybe this is the way to look at it. But he went to Green Bay, right? That was
his dad coach.
Patrick Baldwin Jr.
His dad was the coach there, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that's 100% it. That would have immediately been red flag. You're off my draft board if you go to Green Bay University.
Or your dad's your coach.
Yeah, that's true. I don't want that either. So, I mean, in part of this crazy game, VJ had a rough start. 0 points in the first half. But then, as has been the case when it feels like every single Sixers game this year, he makes the biggest shot of the game and then like the biggest defensive play of the game to help get them to overtime. He hit a crazy pull-up 3 with a down 5, I think it was, down 4 with 1:20 left in regulation. Had some crazy defensive plays. I mean, what VJ's done this year truly goes beyond the box score a little bit. And I was happy to have it. I mean, we were planning the show even before last night's game, but I'm happy he had the clutch moments he did last night because he's been one of the most clutch players in the league. His clutch time efficiency, it's like 70-something% true shooting in clutch moments. It is just absolutely insane what he's done. And I'm actually just interested to hear just your immediate takeaways from VJ. Edgecombe, right?
Edgecombe. Yeah, I watched the Olympic Games, and I can't even remember where the announcer was from, but he pronounced it Edgecombe. So we've just always said it in that way ever since. And I think it is technically pronounced that way. I think
like
you are
Edgecombe?
correct. I say Edgecombe, but yeah, I think it is.
That's what
Edgecombe.
I say, and then every broadcast I watch, they say Edgecombe, and I'm like, that's just
I'm not
wild,
saying
bro.
that.
Like, there's no way that's the name that he's going to go with.
Yeah, between Knipple and Edgecombe, we're getting a really horny draft class here.
We really are,
Yeah, but the things that I felt about VJ, I love VJ in the draft. I was early in the cycle, I wasn't quite as high on his like long-term upside. I felt like he projected more as like a really good role player. I think the best case scenario I was thinking was like a Jalen Suggs, Derek White type, where, they might not be stars in name, but are there 30, 40 players in the NBA you'd rather have than those two guys? Like, they just contribute to winning so much on both ends of the court. That was the idea behind what I thought with VJ. And then I dove a little bit more, I watched the games where he played in the Olympics in the qualifiers, and he showed some stuff there that he was not able to show off at Baylor as much. Like, Baylor, they had him in a very restrictive role, kind of, I would say, somewhat similar to the role that he's had this year with the Sixers, but occasionally we let him take over when he is feeling himself down the stretch. Yeah, he's third in true shooting and clutch time, at least going into last night. Might be even better now.
Yeah, has to be.
Because he made at least 2 or 3 big shots at the end of that game again when it was really close. But Anthony Edwards is first, Nikola Jokic is second, and VJ Edgecombe is third for anyone who has taken the amount of shots that those guys have taken. But I've been like pretty much impressed with him since day one of Summer League. He came in, it was VJ versus Ace in a big game in Utah Summer League, and I was a big VJ over Ace guy for the Sixers specifically. In general, I did have VJ a few spots ahead of Ace on my board, but I was just very much sold on the idea of VJ coming in and giving us, something that we haven't really had in quite some time, which is someone that can, really defend, someone who has a crazy motor, someone who can attack off of the ball, and someone who's just going to be able to be a running mate with Tyrese Maxey for the next 5 to 10 years. That was my thought, was like, get the best player you can get, and also get someone who can kind of transform your play style. And VJ and Maxey have done that so far this season. And VJ has really, really stood out to me in terms of how much he's just improved from where we were in Summer League to where we are now. Like, he's completely fixed his shot. It feels like every shot is going in when he takes it in the fourth quarter. And then the other thing is that, like, he's improved as a driver. He's improved as a ball handler. He's even improved as a defender. Like, the first game of the season, if you go rewatch that, like, he was great on offense, but he was getting bullied by Derek White and Jaylen Brown that whole game. And now he's locking guys up at the end of games. He played amazing defense on Jalen Brunson in their 2 matchups so far this year. And I feel like he is budding into, becoming a two-way star. And like you said, this draft class is just absolutely insane. I think it's, like, I said this on my podcast, I think it's the most well-rounded, best top 4 that, like, if you include, like, the really strong drafts like 2021 and even if you want to go back to like 2003, they all have one guy that you're kind of lukewarm on, or it was just a guy in the top 4. And this 4 is just like, I could see all of these guys becoming regular all-stars. And even if they don't, I think they're just going to be really good NBA players for, a decade.
Yeah, I did a thing recently where I went back and I looked at that, and I did like a video where it was like, these guys are going to be stars. And it was like the top 4 guys in the draft. And everyone was like, well, yeah, no shit. And I was like, well, no, when you go back and look, historically speaking, yeah, I mean, there's always somebody that kind of doesn't pan out. It's very rare that even the top 2 picks turn out to be both great Hall of Fame players. It's only happened like 5 or 6 times, I think, that the top 2 picks in a draft have both went on to make the Hall of Fame. And I was just kind of thinking, I watch, Coop, obviously, I think he's got star potential. Dylan Harper, I think, has star potential. VJ, I said this after a Summer League. It might have been Summer League or preseason, but when you watch VJ, it's like, this is like the most clear and obvious future star I've seen in quite some time, with his athleticism and the three-point shot, like you said, that just kind of appeared out of nowhere, really. Like, just high volume, making them at a high clip, and off the dribble, pull-ups. Like, that 3 he hit late in the fourth quarter last night was cold-blooded. I mean, that was a hand in his face on a closeout. Nothing but net. I mean, just
he's come so far in such a short amount of time, where it just doesn't, like, for anyone who wasn't really following him during the draft, like, one of the things that people were concerned about was, okay, he might be able to make, occasional wide open spot up threes, but what does it look like when these shots are more tightly contested? What does his release look like? Is he willing to put up a ton of volume from 3 when the shot isn't falling? And he shot through the slumps this year. And, like, he's had games where he goes 2 for 8 or, 1 for 9 or whatever it is, but he continues to shoot through them. And the thing that I think will really unlock the next level of his game would be that off the dribble 3, personally, because it just, like, I've seen it with Tyrese Maxey, where, like, Maxey's always kind of been up and down with his pull-up 3, but adding it to his game this year and becoming like an average to above average pull-up 3-point shooter on decent volume just opens up so much for driving lanes, his ability to get downhill, his ability to get to the basket and into the paint and get those paint touches. And VJ's 2 things that I think that he needs to work on the most would be that pull-up 3-point shot, because it looks good and it goes in way more often than I ever anticipated for him as a rookie. And then the other thing is the off-the-dribble passing. Like, the off-the-dribble passing, the playmaking, that has a ways to go, I would say. Like, I think that if you were comparing him to someone like Dylan Harper, for example, like, Dylan Harper's like a much better driver and off the dribble passer than him. And VJ has clear star qualities. He has the ability to kind of, some of my favorite stars in the NBA, at least before Jimmy Butler, broke my heart with the Sixers. But, like, Jimmy Butler is a guy that I've compared him to, if you want to even, yeah. Well, it's one of those it's one of those things where like you just catch them on the right night and like a little bit of like they have a similar bag. I would say they also kind of look alike. So I think that is part of it as well. But the thing that I think that someone like Jimmy, and this was the idea behind drafting him, was basically he can be a role player on the nights where he's not a star. And I think that those are the most underappreciated stars in the NBA, where all right, maybe the shot isn't falling tonight. Maybe, I'm not going to be a guy that, runs 20 pick and rolls on this night because someone else is cooking. How else can I affect the game? And VJ is always affecting the game in some capacity if the shot isn't falling.
Yeah. I mean, that's his defense has also been one of the things. The live passing, that's always like the next step. We're still like Anthony Edwards, that was the big one. Where it's like, can that playmaking, but not just the playmaking, it's the bending the defense and then making the live skip passes. Like that's always the next evolution for those type of guys. And it'll be interesting to see if VJ can. The thing with all of these rookies is it's hard to put a ceiling on any of them because they've all, you said this about VJ and it's true about Coop too. Like they've all come into the league and have already grown their games in like the first 2-3 months of the season to where I don't know what Coop's ceiling is. I don't know what Harper's ceiling is. We haven't seen much of him. He doesn't play as much as some of the other guys, obviously, because of the Spurs situation. Like Knipple, who knows what his ceiling is? I mean, he's already probably better than some people expected he would ever be in the league. So I don't. What do you think? Are you up to date with the odds, the betting odds for this stuff?
I mean, I would imagine it goes Flagg, VJ.
Is there a way we can share this on screen? VJ's plus 2,500 right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where like the number one pick generally gets the benefit of the doubt in these things, especially when they're as good and like as highly touted as a prospect as Cooper Flagg is.
Not Ricochet. Last year they're like, his ass isn't getting Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, I was gonna say there are these weird drafts and there's also drafts where it's obvious. Like for example, I've had the opposite where we had Markelle Fultz, and he, barely played and was in and out, and it was this weird season, and he didn't turn out to be the player that people thought he was going to be. We also happen to have rookie Ben Simmons on that team, who ended up winning Rookie of the Year. But
that was Fultz's first year.
Yeah, they were, because Ben didn't play his first year. Remember,
Fultz is just older than. Whenever I look at Fultz's basketball reference, every time I would have done it, I'm like, wow, he came to the league that long ago. Like to me, it feels like 2020 or something could have been his rookie year.
9 years, because he didn't play. He didn't play that much his rookie year. He was in and out of the lineup. Yeah. He had that like weird injury. And then his second year, he started to kind of find himself with the Sixers. And then we traded for Jimmy Butler. And it was like, we don't really need Fultz as much anymore. So we traded him. Funny enough, we traded him for the pick that became Tyrese Maxey. But we lucked out in that situation. But kind of just going back to what I was saying, like the number one pick generally when their prospect is hyped up as Cooper Flagg, they tend to get the benefit of the doubt. First off, they get drafted to worse situations usually. I would say like the Mavericks are a weird team because they have more talent than your average number one, pick team that is drafting, which I think we've seen a little bit more. Remember a few years ago when like Cade got drafted to the Pistons, or even like Jalen Green that year on the Rockets. Like we had these guys go into like pretty dire situations, I would say. Whereas Coop like went to a situation where there is talent on the team, but talent doesn't really fit together. And then the availability of AD and Kyrie and stuff. So it's one of those things where like Coop didn't really get drafted to the situation that he like with Lively being out too. Like we really felt like this team probably could have been better. And it's not necessarily his fault at all that they're not good, because the team is just not nearly good enough. And it's one of those things where I look at these top guys, and I personally think you could make a case for any three of those guys. Like the Con thing is like, I said in the draft process, he had like the underrated ceiling to me. Like I thought that of all the guys, I was like, he was like a heliocentric guy in high school. He led AAU in scoring, which never really gets talked about. Like he led EYBL. He led EYBL in scoring for a year. And then he came to Duke and he shifted into the role to be the second option to Coop. And then when Coop got injured, he was the first option. So I was like, I don't really think this guy is someone that you can necessarily cap at like, yeah, he might be like the absurd, like the people that were low on him that were like, he's Corey Kispert were always absurd. I saw like Cam Johnson or Bogdan Bogdanovic, and I was like, yeah, I could see those outcomes. But when you're as productive and as good as him with the feel and touch that he has, I feel like most of those guys end up being way better in the NBA than we expect. And he has, yeah, I mean, he's literally like a sub all-star right now, which is kind of crazy for a rookie. I legitimately think that he, and going to the Hornets, like the mess that the Hornets always are, even though they're more talented this year than in the past, is very, very impressive. So I think all three of these guys could easily win the award, and I wouldn't have a problem with it.
Yeah, I mean, I look at the odds right now, and it's minus 700 for Coop, plus 700 for Con. That's obviously like projecting out, and these odds obviously aren't like rankings; they're just predicting who's going to win the award. And I agree, the one pick's always going to have the upper edge. I mean, I'd give it to Coop right now, obviously. I mean, that goes without being said, right? Because that's just who I am and how I am. But
are you slightly biased?
I'm slightly biased. They do say that. I mean, Con's at 43% from three, man, on 8.5 attempts.
I hate that this conversation, every time I have it, I end up talking about Con, because when we went on that Around the Horn thing that we did on Playback, we had the same conversation.
Playback, man. How are you coping with that one? That's a tough
heartbreaking thing. Dude. I absolutely love Playback. It was legitimately, we look forward to it so much. The whole community, like YKB community, is like super bummed out over it. It fucking sucks. Like it's basically like one of the few things that actually came out of Silicon Valley and seemed to have like good use and like potential to be something great. And of course it gets undercut by probably, some corporation stuff that is above my head. But yeah, no, just looking at Con's stats, like he's shooting 48% from the field, 43% from three, 88% from the line. He's going to shatter the rookie record for 3 points. Like 3-point makes, he's going to destroy it.
He might break that in a couple weeks.
He also might finish the season close to 50, 40, 90 and be averaging 20 points a game as a rookie. Like my thing with all of these guys is I think they all have their own unique, different cases where like Coop, I think you probably, if usually the player that wins, now this isn't always the case. Usually the player that wins is someone that you project long-term to be a superstar, right? So like the argument with Coop is like he had a rough start to his career, but he kind of figured things out. He's hit the rookie wall a little bit recently, but the flashes and the stretches that you see from him, like he had in that time in December, like he looked legitimately like a dominant two-way player, and the league has kind of moved towards that style of player in general, in terms of like the big wings who can handle the ball, create for themselves, create for others, fit in on any good team in the NBA. And then you have someone like VJ, who was an instant impact guy, broke or was the second highest rookie debut ever, I believe, in his first game, comes out of the gate, looks amazing. The terrorist Nick Nurse throws him into the rookie wall at 100 miles per hour. He has no legs for a few weeks, and he looks like your average rookie. And then we come back from the break. He has fresh legs again, and he looks like this dominant player again. And then you have someone like Con, who's just like went to an organization that has always been, one of the worst organizations in all of professional sports ever since they became the Bobcats and then the Hornets. And he has kind of turned the culture around. And we had someone in the Discord, my buddy KJ, who would call him the Babylon Bees #1 prospect. You got to think, with the way that the country's moving right now, you got to think that he could be the representative rookie of the year.
True. I mean, I don't know if the Hornets play tonight or not, but it might be worth taking some Con Knipple unders. He might be celebrating pretty hard today.
I was going to say, is it we do have some history with that organization with January 6th. I mean, Gordon Hayward famously dropped his career high on the day of January 6th.
Is that right?
It could go either direction with Con. Yeah, I believe that is true. I think he had 45 points.
The day it happened.
The day it happened. It was January 6th, 2021.
That is fucking hilarious.
You can fact check this, but I'm almost, I mean, not that facts matter anymore in our country.
No,
but
I'll just take it as truth. because I want it to be true.
I'm almost positive, and even if it isn't, let's just roll with it.
Gordon Hayward,
no, it is 44.
Him randomly, like I'm looking at his basketball reference right now. Kind of crazy. He's a one-time All-Star, just because I think in our head canon, Gordon Hayward was better than that.
Well, because the leg injury just completely derailed potentially. Like, he went from like one-time All-Star guy who could he probably would have made an All-Star game or two if he stayed with Boston, just because the East was kind of weak during those years, and like Tatum and them weren't quite good enough to make the All-Star game, and that team would have been really good, so he would have. And then he breaks his leg the first play, and then he comes back and he's still like a solid to good player, but he was just never the level of player that he was, because he kind of like he had sneaky athleticism. He
was a sneaky athlete.
Yeah. So he required some athleticism to really get into his bag. But yeah, his career high is 44 points, which he scored on January 6th, 2021. Incredible.
That is absolutely unbelievable. That is a real thing. Yeah, I mean, Knipple, look out. Do they play tonight? Let me see. No, they don't. That's unfortunate, man. Wow. We really missed out on what could have been an all-timer tonight.
That's why they beat the Thunder last night. He was hyped up for today.
That is true. Some people celebrate Christmas on Christmas Eve, so maybe that was just kind of the thing there for Knipple last night. Even though I don't know if he was, God, the Thunder. People in my chat are killing me. I've been a Thunder believer for a long time, and people hate me for it. But it is what it is.
I mean, I feel like you've been kind of vindicated.
Yeah, I know. That's my whole thing. Is it's like, yes, I was right, so I'm going to talk my shit. But then people, whatever.
Because they didn't break. Man. They didn't break the Golden State Warriors record.
Well, to be fair, I was talking a little bit crazy.
Okay, well, I mean, my co-host Sam is a big Thunder hater, and he pointed out at one point that he was like, they played the Kings 3 times, right? And I was like, I don't care. Yeah. Like, I was like, basically, like, now to be fair, my whole time I was like, I don't know if they're gonna break I don't know if that record will ever be broken. It just feels like a record that is. It's unfair. I know the league was much weaker during that time period, and they revolutionized the sport with their system and the amount of threes they took and all of that. But that was only a decade ago. Like, that feels like impossible in my mind. How do you lose less than 10 games in a whole NBA season? Yeah. I just like the Thunder started 23-1 or whatever it was. And now they're already like at the point where they're going to be in double-digit losses because they went 6-6 over the last 12 games.
Yeah, it's just it's the modern NBA too, because you look back at any of these Thunder losses, they're just not shooting well, and it's just if you can't survive. I mean, obviously they're still the best team in the league, but like you can't, like you said, go on the all-time win record in today's league unless you're just some crazy three-point shooting team who almost never has off nights, and they were never like a high-volume three-point shooting team to begin with. And now they're just in this crazy shooting rut. They low-key need a trade. I know you're a big slop guy. This seems like it's going to be a slow slop season, unfortunately.
Okay, I'm really not meaning to give you any sort of PTSD here, but we did an episode literally this week last year called The Death of the NBA Trade Deadline.
Don't worry. I infamously, by the whole time leading up to the trade, was like, guys, I think this is going to be one of the quiet ones. And I even specifically said, this will be the first time in like 5 years the Mavericks don't do anything at the trade deadline.
A lot of people, it felt that way because it was a combination of, and I think it's the same thing for this deadline a little bit, but now it feels like teams are trying to, I would say last year, it felt like everyone was just kind of on pause because of the aprons and everyone was getting adjusted to the new rules in the CBA and what trades could and couldn't happen. And you had like the only star at this time last year, the only two we thought could possibly ask out were De'Aaron Fox and Jimmy Butler. Mm-hmm. And what I knew was Jimmy Butler and the Miami Heat, Pat Riley is the most stubborn GM in the NBA. He would rather just let a guy walk than lose a trade. So I was like, I don't know if there's a trade out there for Jimmy Butler. And then on the other end was De'Aaron Fox. And I was like, well, he still has 2 years left on his contract. They could trade him in the offseason when it's easier to make trades. And then obviously the Luka trade happens and it destroys all of our dopamine, because now when any trade happens, like the trade news dropped yesterday and we were like, we're just chasing the dragon now. Yeah. I know obviously it's very different. It's a different perspective from your perspective where it just kind of completely shattered everything for Mavericks fans, but I just, from like a neutral perspective, like I'll never have a trade like that again where I feel as shocked as I was the night that trade happened. So whatever happens this deadline is going to pale in comparison to last year.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing that will. I'm just trying to even think what could possibly top last year that I could somewhat convince myself maybe. And there's just
Giannis could get traded,
right? Like that's kind of been okay. This was a long time coming type of thing. I'm thinking along the lines of maybe, and I'm not predicting. I'm not saying this is going to happen, but I'm saying could I see a 0.001% chance where it's like a what the fuck just happened type thing? If the Spurs were like, the Wemby stuff scares us, and they just offered us 10 first-round picks or whatever. Like we're gonna go ahead and capitalize on this right now. I mean, it would never in a billion years happen. But that's what the Luka trade was basically.
Sure. Yeah.
That's how insane it was.
I mean, it would be like if the Spurs made the finals this year and then next year because that's what will forever break everyone's brain about the Luka trade, which is that it's not even though we know Wemby is going to be a destroyer of worlds as long as he can stay healthy, and he might go down as legitimately. I do think that if he has decent health, and I pray that he does, he could be one of the 3 greatest players of all time. And Luka at one point was seemingly on a track to reach that upper echelon of player. And then even if you consider yourself disappointed by whatever he became by the end of his Mavericks tenure, they still made the NBA finals and the conference finals. And he had like the highest points per game ever in the playoffs, except for Michael Jordan, I think. Mm-hmm. So it's one of those things where it's unfathomable that will ever happen again. But we're low-key in the era of the dumb GM being kind of back. I don't know if you've kind of picked up on this, but maybe it's just because teams fire GMs so often now. So it's a combination of like last front office and this front office. But it feels like we're getting more panic moves. We're getting moves that, like, for example, like the Pelicans draft night trade is gonna live in infamy for the move that they made on draft night, and that kind of made it so that the other trade they made last offseason got lost in the shuffle when they traded CJ McCollum for Jordan Poole, and now CJ McCollum's contract might get Trae Young and a first-round pick for the Wizards.
For the life of me, still do not understand that trade. And that one, you said, just got swept under the rug. Yeah.
It's Troy Weaver. It's Troy Weaver because we've said this before. Troy Weaver is really good at identifying and scouting and acquiring talent. He has no idea how trade value works. That he is like the trade. I mean, you're talking about a guy that traded, and I know it's funny because he reacquired him with the Wizards and then again with the Pelicans, but he traded Sadiq Bey when he was like a playable wing for James Wiseman, when it was obvious James Wiseman was not anything. He also went out of his way to make that draft night trade. He constantly would do these things. He gave up in the Dante DiVincenzo trade years ago. He got Marvin Bagley in that trade. Like he's the kind of guy where he can like find talent in the draft, and he can get guys via free agency or in second draft guys or whatever, but he will do whatever it takes to acquire a player once he has his sights set on him, which was the CJ McCollum for Jordan Poole trade, where it's like Jordan Poole has been sneaky one of the worst players in the NBA the last few years, making $30 million a year, and they gave up an expiring CJ McCollum who is better than him. It just makes no sense.
And you just drafted Fears, and presumably DeJounte's coming back. So, I mean, we're like a full calendar year since his Achilles tear. So for the life of me, I could not understand that trade. I'll make a case real quick for this year's trade deadline and why I think maybe it could sneak up on us is I think there's a perfect sort of mixture right now of the Eastern Conference does feel legitimately wide open, but I do think most teams will probably look at their situation and say, we got to add something. And maybe one domino drops and then another domino drops and another domino drops. And on top of that, I do think there's a couple of really desperate teams. And that's really what you need to start fueling a trade deadline. A couple of desperate teams that are either desperate to get off guys or desperate to bring guys in. Like we talk about the Trae Young stuff. And usually in reports like this, once specific teams and specific players start getting named, that's when it's like, okay, something seems like it's happening here. Like something seems like it's at least progressed to the point where they're talking like this. I still think Milwaukee for Trae Young just makes a ton of sense in terms of Milwaukee's desperate. They need some backcourt help. And it would give them this sort of, okay, maybe we trade Giannis in the summer. Maybe Giannis wants out in the summer. And if that does happen, we at least have somebody that can sell some jerseys for us. We could at least have somebody who we could say, hey, Trae Young's here. Like, maybe we make the play-in tournament. We don't have our pick, so we can't bottom out and be terrible.
Yeah.
I'm really interested to see what happens there.
There's two reasons why I would be skeptical of that. The first is that if Atlanta has any real interest in Giannis, I mean, maybe they send Trae there as like a way to nuke the Bucks, because look, Trae's talented, but like it's not like he's the best locker room vibes guy just based on everything that we've ever heard. So it's one of those things where it's like maybe this actually will be the thing that sinks the ship, makes them trade Giannis to us a few months later. But
That'd be hilarious.
The other part of this that I've been saying, and the reason why, like, every time a Bucks report pops up, I feel like I'm losing my mind, because they just keep getting attached to guards.
I know.
And I'm like, I've watched them this year. And like, look, Trae is a different thing because of what you laid out, where Trae could be post Giannis for a year. We put some nice pieces around him. We're competitive. Maybe we, fight for the play-in or whatever. And that's a different story in itself. But like, when I see them get attached to Zach LaVine, I'm like, look at their roster. Like, in order to make these trades work, whether it's Trae Young or Zach LaVine or any of these guys, they have to trade Kyle Kuzma and Bobby Portis. And I don't think Kyle Kuzma and Bobby Portis are good, but they are forwards. And they don't have forwards on this roster.
No, Kuzma's legitimately important for them.
Yeah, which is, I mean, I'm saying
that's not a good thing.
Exactly, but it's true.
Yeah.
Like, it's true that especially when you are trying to build a team around Giannis and you don't want to overextend him in terms of rebounding, defense, all that stuff. It's not like Kuzma's the greatest at that, but he's at least a body that can kind of, muck things up from time to time. When you watch them, their biggest issues still are rebounding and defense, funny enough.
Yeah.
And if you list out their 5 best players this year, like, unless Miles Turner's been terrible without Giannis, and Ryan Rollins has been their second best player, then AJ Green's been their third best player, then Kevin Porter Jr. has been their fourth best player. Like, I'm like, if you list it all out, you realize that this team needs just a competent wing or forward instead of a guard. And then I think they make a lot more sense. And like, I mean, I don't think they're anything more than like a 7 seed in a first round out, even at best case scenario. But I still think that if you want to give the illusion of competitiveness under Giannis, that's the style of trade. Like, they don't have enough to get Michael Porter Jr., but if they can get a player in a similar mold, they should be trying to do that.
Well, what wasn't Jeremy Grant's name in that clump of names when they were desperate? Like, that actually makes some sense to me in terms of,
he's at least a wing who can shoot.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that fits kind of the mold that you were talking about. Yeah, the LaVine stuff, I mean, Jesus Christ, if they do that, I don't know what on earth they're even looking at there. Because at least Trae Young's a point guard, so you can talk yourself into the Trae Giannis pick and roll.
At this point, I know this might sound crazy. If you were running the Bucks, or if you're running any NBA team, would you rather have Trae Young or Ryan Rollins?
Oh, and I was a Trae Young defender for quite some time.
Same.
At this point in time, I don't know how you can overlook the fact that across the NBA, these small guards are just complete and total, disasters. They just are.
Yeah, and like,
win with them.
Once again, Trae is a very talented player, one of the best passers in the NBA, great playmaker. His scoring is dipped, his shooting is dipped, his defense has always been terrible. And then combine that with the fact that you have to build your team around him. Trae Young doesn't fit in. You have to fit in around Trae Young.
Yeah.
And that is why someone like Rollins would just be more appealing to me if I'm trying to like win playoff series.
The problem with Trae is like, he always got the Steph comparisons early on, at least, because he shot from 40 feet and he was a shooter in college. But the 3-ball just never got there. And for him, it had to have. He had to be a way better 3-point shooter than he's ended up being. I mean, he's a career 35% 3-point shooter. Like, he's 30%.
Yeah, in your mind, he should be way better, but he just takes incredibly hard threes. They're almost all off the dribble. It's funny enough, because I remember during those years, it was like KOC would always do the thing where it's like, well, if Trae just did this and Trae just did that, and the idea of that was always great, but he just never changed his game to fit in anywhere with anyone on the team, and it's hard for me to see him not having a career that's similar to like late career Russell Westbrook, where he just kind of bounces around from team to team.
God, it's crazy how fast the NBA changes, man.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually so interested in what his contract's going to be. Because it's kind of similar to the AD one. For me, completely different players. AD's a winning basketball player, but similar in the sense that they've got an interesting summer coming up where they're going to want contract extensions. And I just can't imagine there's a single team out there that's like, yep, we'll give you the max. And I just can't imagine there's too many teams that are like, yeah, I'll give you close to that. So then it's like, what is their contract going to look like? I have no clue.
I think it's like the Porzingis deal that he signed when he went to the Celtics,
30
where it's
million.
like $30 million a year, maybe 2 or 3 years, kind of. I mean, that's honestly what I thought Paul George was going to do to stay with the Clippers before he left.
Trey?
Either, but honestly, I would probably lean a little bit more towards AD for that one. Like Trey, I have an even harder time. Like I think AD is more along the lines of like, I don't think he's going to get extended, to be clear, but when he does get paid, I think it's going to be something like that, where it's like, if you can play 50 games and show that you're, still the player that you've shown that you can be in the past, then we'll do a style deal like that. But I don't think anyone's lining up to pay. I've been saying this, like everyone is trying to get off of big contracts.
Yeah.
That's why the Sixers fucked themselves, because the Sixers signed 2 of the biggest contracts in the NBA for guys who were not available all that often. And everyone in the NBA has moved towards like, we might pay to get off these contracts. That's why I've been saying I think the Mavericks should do everything in their power to trade Anthony Davis this deadline, because there is a world where he just has less value moving forward.
Yeah. It's interesting you mentioned the 30 million thing, because I'm thinking about it. I'm actually interested to hear what my chat would have to say about it. But I think if AD's contract is around there, I'd keep him.
Yeah, I mean, at that number, and also the Maverick situation is kind of unique in that, like, you just drafted Cooper Flagg.
Yeah,
like, you have such a long runway relative, and you want to get Derek Lively healthy, and you want to hit on this pick that you guys have coming up. Like, you have a lot of runway, and you can go into a rebuild easier once you start trading off the veteran players on your team, that you might be more comfortable saying, look, AD might not be available all the time, but if he ever is, then there's upside to this long term if we can get him back at that $35 million a year number or whatever it is. Whereas a team like, for example, like the Sixers, like we were like now it's easier because we fucked up last year and we got VJ, but like a lot of teams that are in the position that, like even the Hawks, I know they have a younger core, but like it's very obvious they want to compete and try to win now. Like you guys have such a longer runway that you could probably like pull off a deal like that. But like there are plenty of teams who are in the NBA that just don't really have the runway that the Mavericks have.
I was talking about our teams lucking out. It makes me think about the lottery day, because we both had very unique experiences. Obviously, me celebrating the number one pick, but yours was funny too. And I remember the clip of just the confusion at first as to whether or not the Sixers got to keep their pick.
We were confused over whether the Sixers kept their pick because the broadcast
they fucked it up on the broadcast.
And by the way, Kevin Nagandi was the one who fucked it up. He's a Philly guy too, so we all gave him shit. He was a good sport.
Well, he was probably freaking out too. He was like, "Oh my god, they lost the pick, guys."
Yeah, exactly. On the inside, he's melting down. But the other part of that was we obviously, our first thought, and you had the same thought on your stream, which was we were like, oh, it's rigged. Like the Mavericks get the first pick, they traded away Luka, they make the Lakers happy, big market, whatever, blah blah blah. But we were all praying on the same stream that the Spurs did not get the pick.
Well, that was my thing. It was rigged, but it was rigged because they rigged it so the Spurs could get a top 2 pick, and then they put the Mavs number 1 because then nobody would talk about the Spurs. Because if the Hornets won the lottery, then everyone would be like, wait, what the fuck? The Spurs got the second pick in a draft? Or there's like, yeah, the second Dylan Harper is going to be a superstar in the league.
Yeah, and look, I was really high on Harper, and I still think he has that kind of ceiling, but I think the pure shock if we saw Wemby and Flagg together, combined with the fact that they just drafted Castle last year, they just traded for De'Aaron Fox, like that would have been something that just put us all on tilt. Like I don't think that we would have been able to kind of comprehend what we were in for. Even though I think that they haven't played a lot of minutes together, but the Harper Wemby minutes are legitimately fucking insane.
Well, last time I think they're like plus 40 net rating.
Yeah, they're just destroying teams in their minutes. Like, and it doesn't feel like, I'm sure there's some like shooting luck or whatever the nerds will tell you, like, oh, well, actually, if you regularized it and blah blah. I'm like, just watch the games. Like they're just killing teams when those guys are on the court, and I'm sure it won't be quite to that extent, but it's obvious that pairing is going to be amazing together for the next decade.
This has been a new kind of a resolution I had coming into this year. Is I have Canceled some of my advanced stat subscriptions that I had. I'm completely off stats. I've looked at next to no stats. I've just watched with my eyeballs this year. That was my resolution. Is like sometimes these things can get so fucky. And you just, it's like, especially when all of the clips or the pictures come out, and I use them too from time to time because they are kind of interesting, but those wowie, like, lineup combination ones.
Yeah,
it's like, dude,
for sure.
It's a 20
I
minute
only
sample.
do it for
like,
agendas.
That's one game.
I know.
That's one run.
I was like, I want to be clear. I'm not like a metrics matter more than anything guy, but if there is an agenda that can be served due to whether it's an on-off, a wowie combo, an EPM, a BPM, or whatever, I will run with it because
100%.
I am a propagandist at the end of the day.
I agree with you, and I actually think part of that is Coop's advanced stuff's not great. And hey, the thing is, hey, rookies don't have good advanced stats. Watch with your eyeballs.
And also, like, how many rookies have we seen recently that come in and they are the sole like lead creator for their team?
Yeah.
And they like, I mean, I know you were higher on Cade when he was younger, but I remember his first 2 years being like, this guy turns the ball over a ton even for someone that is young, and you know the jump shot isn't quite where I thought it, and he's completely proved me wrong. Like, he's been one of the 10 best players in the NBA this year and will get legit top 5 MVP votes and has been incredible. But with all these things, like, there have been rookies that have had like legitimately bad rookie years too.
Yeah.
That turn out to be like good long term. Like, I almost think that, especially when a guy is 18 on draft night, I almost take nothing from at least the first 3 or 4 months of their NBA career.
Yeah.
And then, you know, the second half of the year is where you want to see them kind of figure out the game more, turn it around. Like Anthony Edwards did that famously, De'Aaron Fox. Darius Garland had one of the worst rookie years in NBA history. And then he turned out to be an all-star level player. Like, we see it time and time again. Like, I really wouldn't take much from rookie seasons.
We have someone in the chat who's begging for us to talk about Anthony Black, but Anthony Black is a pretty good example, actually. Because there were some stretches where, like, advanced stats, like, this is the worst player in the league.
Oh, dude, do you remember Jalen Suggs' rookie year?
Jalen Suggs is a great example, too.
You didn't even need to look at advanced stats. Just watch the games or look at the percentages. He was shooting, like, 25% from 3 and like 34% from the field. And it's very funny because I saw a lot of similarities between him and VJ, to be honest with you. Like, crazy athletes, really good defenders, just like high feel players that can fit into any kind of context. And watching VJ this year and then remembering where Jalen Suggs was at his rookie year versus where he is now just gives me so much hope for VJ's long-term potential, because like, I remember his rookie year being like, man, I loved him as a prospect, and maybe I was just wrong about this guy. And turns out he just needed a little bit, you know, better players around him, needed time to develop, and he's turned into, in my opinion, when available, he's one of the 40 or 45 best players in the NBA.
Oh yeah, I think Suggs is absolutely up there. I mean, that's what's crazy about this rookie class is it's like, usually these guys start slow, and these are all young guys at the very top. These are all one and done guys, and usually these guys start slow. But dude, during December, I was like, oh, is Coop gonna make the fucking All-Star team this year? Like, that was questions we were having, and it's like VJ, Coop, Con. I think you could make real arguments that those 3 guys are top 50 players in the league right this second. I don't know if you would take, I mean, I have to sit down and look at it, but I really don't know if you could say, yeah, for sure, I'd take this, like 50 guys over those 3 dudes right now. That's how crazy they've been.
And when you consider the injuries and the lack of availability from players that were like just like penned into the top 50 in the past, at least in this season, I think there's like a real argument, especially when you take into consideration age, context, rookie curve, all that shit, because you're projecting forward a little bit with those things. But like, you just named off those guys, and the thing that blows my mind is that every night we're seeing a new guy that, like, Colin Murray Boyles just had an amazing game last night.
Dude, he was incredible. I watched that game.
So Colin Murray Boyles is great, and like Colin Murray Boyles was not very good to start, and then he has this amazing game, and then occasionally like Derek Queen's been amazing. Like, you have Cedric Howard had that crazy start to his career.
Can I rain on the Derek Queen parade a tiny bit?
So I feel the other way about the other New Orleans Pelicans rookie, but okay. You can continue.
All right, so we're just gonna shit on the Pelicans here real quick.
See, I like Queen a lot more than I like Fears.
So I really like both of them, and I like Queen. And offensively, yeah, he does things where you're like, whoa. I mean, his touch around the rim's incredible. He's got that slow step, that Euro step. That's just, you can't teach that stuff really. That's such a feel for the game. defensively, he is horrifically bad.
Yeah.
To the point where it's like, dude, if you have to improve so dramatically on this end to become a high impact player, and he could, to be fair, like I'm not saying, that he's not going to do that, but every time I've watched him recently too, it feels like big time. It's like, dude, this is jarring how bad you are defensively. And a lot of that's, he needs to get stronger, probably needs to get in better shape consistently. And I think he could do that. So you feel the same way about Fears?
So here's the thing. I had a tier in my draft that they were like 7 and 8 on my board. I want to say maybe might have been 8 and 9 on my board. And I had them in my boomer bust tier where I was literally like, I could see this going one direction. I could see this going the other direction. Because they have clear star qualities. Both of them have great first steps. Both of them are great drivers. Both of them can get to the basket and in the paint at will. Queen flashed a ton of passing stuff in college, the touch stuff, the finishing around the basket stuff, getting to the line, all this stuff that you could project to be a potential offensive hub. I actually really like I think it was my buddy Kev, NBA Couchside, had a comp for him, which was Zion with a play style that is like basically not going to break his body, where like slowed down, chopped and screwed Zion, basically.
Yeah.
And the thing, it's funny that he ended up getting drafted to the Pelicans, who already had Zion, which I didn't really get why they made that pick. I was like, are they trading Zion? But then they kept Zion, and it's the same with the Poole and Fears thing that you talked about earlier. But the Fears thing is like the glimpses of Fears you saw in college, like his start at Oklahoma before conference play when he really fell off a cliff, and then the start that he had to his rookie season. You can see the star qualities for sure. Elite handle, great ability to get downhill, really good touch from like the elbow in. Like he is someone who has star qualities that you can build on. But if we want to talk about like small guards, and this was Sam Vicidi's thing the whole cycle, and I kind of agreed with him, where it just feels so hard to make a guard who's 180 pounds, even if he's 6'3", 6'4", make it work in the modern NBA as everyone's getting bigger and more skilled. And defensively, like, I know rookie guards are generally not good on defense, but he is like, anytime he's on the court, it's like a disaster. Mm-hmm. And like, they have like the worst transition defense in the NBA when he's on the court because he's missed a bunch of layups and then they get out running the other way. And then defensively, like, he just cannot hang with some of the assignments that he is being asked to do. And like, my whole thing is like, look, he was one of the younger guys in the class. So I was like, if you want to make a bet on someone long-term, he's probably going to be, I remember literally saying like, he might be the worst player in the NBA next year, but I don't think that means that he's dead on arrival long-term.
Second youngest, right?
I think he's the third youngest. I think it's Flagg, Noah, and then Fears, but Noah got hurt. Yeah. And, but the long and short of this was like, when they drafted Fears and then traded for the Queen pick, I'm like, those two guys are never going to be able to work together defensively. Like, if you want to make someone like Queen or Fears work, you need to insulate them with defense all around them. And I just think while that offensive duo has potential to be really special long-term, I just think that you need to have like 3 all-NBA defenders around them. And they have Herb Jones, which is great, but like, are they going to keep Herb Jones? What does that look like long-term? Like, I'm just skeptical that fit can work long term, but the flashes, and I think especially from Queen, like I think we undersell how rare it is for a rookie to get as many assists as he does. Like I did this Şengün's rookie year where I was like, I'm looking at some of these stats and I watch the games and I'm like, he's making the right reads. He's a good enough passer to run some offense through. And if you look at the stats, it's like, I think he was literally doing things that hadn't been done since the 1970s for a rookie big in terms of passing. And Queen is kind of the next step in that process, I think. And I do think that the upside is very, very real with Queen. I'm a little bit more skeptical on Fears just because of the way that the league is moving.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I like Queen more than Fears. My concerns with Queen are because, yeah, Fears is, whatever. It could work out. It couldn't work out. He's a small guard. I do think he does have a superpower because he's one of the 3 probably fastest players in the league right away.
Sure.
And that definitely will help him out. But I think the idea for Queen long-term is, can this guy be like our number 1? Will you trade Zion eventually? And now everything's going to run through Queen. He just has to be better defensively because this
you're right.
This like you can't survive. And people, this has become a thing with the Lakers too. Where it's like, well, you just need 3 great defensive players. It's like, do you know how hard that is? Like, people bring up that Mavs team all the time. It's like, dude, that took like 5 years of trial and error to finally reach that point, and they had to tap through every last one of their assets to get to that point.
Yeah, and it's also like teams have kind of loaded up on those guys, and when they get them nowadays, they generally don't let them go.
Yeah, the two-way big defensive wings making $30+ million.
Yeah, like OG Anunoby made $40 million and everyone freaked out. And I'm like, honestly, when you watch the Knicks and how important he is to their defense and just keeping their offense viable by having someone who can spot up and occasionally, get into the mid post and stuff, like he's kind of essential. Like, I don't think he is their second best player, but he might be their second most important player. Like, I think that if you're comparing him to,
I think you could argue second best, but it's tough with Cat's I still think stuff.
Cat's offense is like, I know that Cat isn't the most consistent, and I know that the defense can drive people insane, but like the games where Karl Anthony Towns has it, it's just like we saw it at times in the playoffs last year, where like. And it ultimately did sink them in the Eastern Conference Finals, which has kind of always been the issue when you're trying to build. And by the way, that's a perfect example of like what I'm talking about with Fears and Queen, where it's like, and I'm not saying that the New Orleans Pelicans need to worry about like making the conference finals or anything, but what I'm saying is like, eventually when you're building a team around a small guard and big with defensive issues, you will run into a matchup that kind of ends up sinking you. And honestly, one of the reasons why the Sixers have had success against them this year is because they're one of the few teams, even with all of their flaws, they're one of the few teams that can run out 3 to 4 legitimate ball handlers at any given time, and then there's nowhere to hide guys on defense like it was for the Pacers-Knicks series last year. But the Towns stuff is like, I mean, Towns is so talented. He's a frustrating player because you felt like he could have been, this all-time great, and he just turned out to be like a really, really good player.
Yeah. That's an interesting point about the Sixers, because I kind of feel that way too about the Celtics, because the Knicks I thought were my pick to win the East. I think they still are, but the more I watch the Celtics, the more it's like, if Tatum comes back and is 80% Jason Tatum, man, that team's really fucking good. And yeah, there's those concerns with the Knicks. I mean, they just have that glaring weakness where you're going to have 2 bad defenders on the floor. And when you play, like you said, a team that can put out 4 decision makers and ball handlers, the ball's going to swing. And at some point, Katz or Brunson, their lack of rotations or their late help's going to bite them in the ass. Like, that's just going to happen. And it's just up to their offense, really, to overwhelm teams. And it's really that's what makes OG and like Mikal incredible to me, is they are literally like basically play free safety for the Knicks. And it's like, I will fix anything that happens wrong here. Like, I will
and that's why they won the Celtics series.
Yeah, 100%. It's crazy.
It's very funny because the Celtics, in a way, it's seemingly built to kind of destroy a team like the Knicks, but I do think that, I know Tibbs isn't a perfect coach and has his own flaws, but like, I do think that Tibbs is a special defensive coach. And I think that them going with the offensively tilted Mike Brown made sense for the hire at the time, because it was just like, we're not getting nearly enough out of this offense when you consider the pieces that we have. But Tibbs did do a lot for that defense, and he had a masterful plan in that Celtics series. And honestly, I agree with you. I can't believe that they might fucking get away with it again this year, the Celtics, even with Jason Tatum missing a large majority of the season. But you just talked about earlier with like the teams that need to make a push at this deadline. I mean, I think the Pistons would be crazy not to try to make like a decent size move to get a second scorer in there.
I've been saying that, and it's difficult now with the stretch they've had recently, but I've been like, dude, if Kawhi is actually available, the Pistons are like the only team in the league that I think makes a ton of sense for Kawhi Leonard, because he can come in, Cade's the guy, kind of similar to how Harden is. Like, Cade's the guy. We don't need you to do everything for us, but we do need you in certain matchups to guard other teams like big forwards and go get a bucket when we need it. Kawhi fits that billing so much to me. Obviously, there's risk involved, but it wouldn't cost an arm and a leg, and that's a move right there that could. I know they're number 1 in the East, but anybody who watches them play is like, they clearly missed something. They clearly
right.
do.
That's the thing. It's like, and I think the Miami Heat are a good litmus test for any team in the regular season because Spo is one of the few coaches in the NBA that will run out like a playoff plan in a regular season game where he'll just like break your offense with a zone and you're like, how the fuck did this work in a January game? Like why are you such a sicko? Why is this happening? And that happened a week ago where they literally were like, hey, Cade's the only player on this team that can create his own offense and create for others. So what if we just ran a zone where we put 4 players near the paint? And then you were just basically forcing him into mid-range jumpers, and he didn't have it that game. And then it turned into no one else on that team was a threat. Like, I was watching the Sixers and the Pistons earlier this year, and it was driving me insane that we kept sending so much help at Cade. But then as the game went on, like, they had a stretch where they shot like 20% from 3 for a good stretch of that game, and we hung with them the whole game. And I was just like, I think when you get to the playoffs, like, you're going to face like teams that have, you know, a real game plan for you. And if you don't have that release valve for Cade, your half court offense is going to sink at the biggest moments. And like you said, like, I think the Knicks look vulnerable. The Celtics, who knows what happens with Tatum. Yeah. They're the 1 seed and they shouldn't make a drastic move. Like, they shouldn't be doing an all-in push. But like you said, like, if there's a guy that's available that makes a lot of sense for what they need right now that is available, go get him, because you, like, the Magic have had a weird year with injuries and the Sixers are never available. Like, this is really up for grabs, and I think that they would be really missing a huge opportunity to potentially get to the NBA Finals.
I agree so much. I've seen, because weirdly enough, for a guy who lives in Dallas, I have a friend who's a big-time Pistons fan. And there's like a common sort of idea amongst Pistons fans, just like, well, let's just let the season play out. Like, we're so young. It's like, dude, you guys could win the fucking conference right now. Like, it's very rare to have these opportunities. Very rare. And yeah, next year, Tatum should be back and healthy. And Halliburton should be back and healthy. And who knows where Giannis goes? Like, Giannis could be on the Heat, and they're a completely different looking team. So yeah.
And by the way, they might have Cam Boozer and Dibansta next year on the Pacers as well. Like, there's a shot that they re-up here, and then they're a contender for the next decade.
I've talked about the Pacers as like a sneaky. Could they be a team on deadline day where it's like, what the fuck did they just do? Like, they traded for that guy,
Zubac, or like
we'll just sit them the rest of the year.
Sure. And I saw them get attached to Walker Kessler, who actually makes a lot of sense because Walker Kessler is someone who's about to get paid and they need a center, and he's out for the rest of the season anyway. So that would actually be, you know, make a lot of sense for them. Now, if I were the Jazz, with the defenders they have, I would want to keep Walker Kessler as much 100%. As possible.
I was thinking that about the Jazz rebuild recently, where it's like, okay, we're kind of reaching this point where, yeah, all these guys are fun, but holy shit, none of them play defense at all. Like, they're all terrible.
No, they have so many offensively tilted like even Ace, like, I think that people think he's a good defender, but he's really just a wing with size.
Pure
and
projection there.
It's all idea with Ace still, where it's like you saw some of the rim protection stuff at Rutgers, and like he has moments this year where he can get steals and blocks and stuff, but like they are a very offensively tilted team between Lauri Markkanen and George, who, in my opinion, has been the biggest surprise in the NBA so far this year. Like, someone brought up Anthony Black. I think those two are probably my biggest, like, where the fuck did this come from style moments. But then again, you have patience with young players. That would probably be the argument for the Pistons. But my other argument back to that would be like, how many, like, I think everyone, and I know Bill Simmons has said this and other people in the media have said this, like, well, look at what the Thunder did. And I'm like, the Thunder are such an outlier and an exception. Like, they had all these picks, they had contract flexibility, they had cap space, they could have done anything they wanted to do. You honestly, because the other side of this is the Memphis Grizzlies, where the Memphis Grizzlies were an awesome young team, a lot of fun. They were great in the regular season, and they would fall flat in their face in the playoffs. And then a few years later, you know, some weird shit happens with injuries to Ja, and Jaren Jackson Jr. doesn't progress quite as well as you thought he would, and you have to trade Desmond Bane, and then you're kind of restarting. And like, they've done a good job by getting like Coward and Edey the last 2 years, but at the same time, like, I just think that if you have opportunities and it doesn't break the bank, you should be aggressive in trying to make upgrades instead of going in the other direction.
Yeah, the Sixers need to be treated like, or not the Sixers, the Thunder need to be treated like how the Warriors were, where it's just like, you cannot replicate this. Do not even bother trying. Because there was that stretch where, wasn't it the Hawks? The Hawks were like, we're going to do a Warriors thing where Trey will be our Steph, Kevin Huerter's going to be our Clay. Like when this is the direction we're going towards.
Yeah,
like, all right.
yeah, genius plan. Like
They did make a conference finals.
I didn't know that actually.
Oh,
I wasn't aware that I didn't know they made a conference finals.
Oh, sorry to bring that up.
You said Kevin Huerter's name, and honestly, I got chills on my spine a little bit, just from hearing that.
Oh my god!
Yeah, so, yeah.
Let's piggyback off of that before I get you out of here with the Sixers, because I want to have you on. You know, anytime I bring on a guest who's a big fan of another team, you're a Sixers fan, in case people weren't aware, because you do a pretty good job of not showing that. You're also you and me are probably the two biggest Bill heads there is out there.
Oh, for sure.
Just love some Bill, and I unironically love him. Like I think he's
same here. Yeah, no, I think he revolutionized sports media. I mean, it is kind of one of those things where it's like, do you really want to take credit for that if you're Bill Simmons? But there is before and after Bill, and it has never been the same since he started. Even before the podcast, just the blogging.
Yeah, I mean, I poke fun at him from time to time, but there's no one who has the brain like his. So I'm tapping into his brain. We're going to do a draft type thing here.
Let's go.
We're just going to draft our favorite Sixers of all time. Just off the top, nothing crazy. It doesn't have to be AI. It could just be anybody. And you got the first. You're here. You're the guest. I'll let you. Who's your favorite Sixer of all time? I'm actually interested to hear this.
I swear to God, this is not recency bias. Tyrese Maxey is my favorite Philadelphia 76er of all time. Anyone who knows me, going back to his year at Kentucky, I loved him in the draft. I never thought that there was a chance that he could have fell to us at 21. Like I was going into that draft thinking he was going to be a lottery pick. Like I was like, he'll go 10 to 15 and then we'll get the other guys I liked in that draft. Funny enough, I have a famous tweet from that draft, which look, there are some years in the draft I completely whiff on. That year I had my number 1 and 2 for the Sixers were Tyrese Maxey and Desmond Bane. So I was tapped in for the top 2. Now after that, it got a little bit iffy, but he has been someone that I've always been high on, and he continues to exceed all of my expectations. Like I loved him in the draft. I thought he was fantastic at times as a rookie. He just continued to get better and better and better. And one of the things was like, I think a lot of the people forget that the reason why he fell in the draft, even though he had this elite speed and this ability to, kind of get to the rim whenever he wanted and collapse a defense, was that the shot was a big question mark for him. And he became one of the best shooters in the NBA. Like, I think that the developmental arc that Maxey has made is one of the, like, people call like outlier development. Like, I think that he always was going to become a good shooter. For him to become a top 10 shooter in the NBA was the thing that really took his ceiling from like nice starter jitterbug guard to like legit superstar potential. And he's 25 years old right now. I think he's clearly been one of the 10 to 12 best players in the NBA so far this season.
At least.
And I was going to say, and the way that last year happened, like to watch his development all throughout these years when, the Sixers, all they do is really kind of let us down. I'd rather be a Sixers fan than a fan of the Sacramento Kings. I'm not sitting here and acting like we have it the hardest. Like we still make the playoffs a decent amount. Like we've won playoff series. We're competitive almost every single year when we have decent health. Like there are fans that have,
the Cowboys of the NBA.
We are the Cowboys. It is the Cowboys. It's the same thing. Like 96 was the last time you guys made the conference finals. 2001. And I know you weren't around to see it, so who cares like quite as much. But like the Cowboys at least have the history. Like we say the Sixers have 2001. That was the only year since they won the title that they've done that, really. Like where they made a run and they got to the finals. Like, so for all of this stuff in terms of like the Sixers just kind of driving us crazy throughout the years with all of the weird shit with Simmons and Fultz and blah, blah, blah. And, Jimmy Butler coming and going and the Al Horford mess and Joel always being injured in the playoffs and now all the time, to have someone like Tyrese Maxey, who's just been like a steady force for us throughout these years. It's been a joy to watch, one of the most fun players to watch in all of basketball. And I still think I can't really put a ceiling on him because he always just exceeds my expectations and just adds something new to his game every time he comes back.
Yeah, I mean, he's become one of the most unguardable players in the league with the three-point shooting developing the way that it has and the quickness off the dribble. It's almost impossible to guard him because you can't give him any space. And then the moment you do crowd up on him, he's just going to blow past you like a blur. And what is he, like third in the league in steals right now? He competes defensively.
He's second in total steals. No, he's third. You're correct. It goes. It's Case and Wallace for Dallas, both Dallas guys.
Dallas.
Case and Wallace, Dyson Daniels, and then Tyrese Maxey is third, and he's also second amongst guards and blocks, behind Derek White, who is crazy. the goat block.
Yeah, he is. He's insane.
Shot blocker from the guard position. So
yeah, so we're very happy to claim Tyrese Maxey here in the Metroplex. He's a big bright spot for Dallas basketball. I guess I thought you were going to go Embiid for some reason, so that kind of threw me off. I'm going to take Eric Snow. And
let's go.
The reason for that, and this isn't some troll, I used to always, I forgot what 2K it was. Me and my friend would always play, and I would always pick that all-time, or the 2001 Sixers team. And he was never a good three-point shooter in real life, but for whatever reason in that game, he would just drain threes over and over, and Allen Iverson would get doubled every time, and I'd kick it to him for threes. So I always have a fond memory of Eric Snow because of that.
I actually have an Eric Snow story. A few years ago, I went on his podcast.
Oh,
this was like my first year. So I knew someone that hosts a Sixers like daily podcast on one of these networks, and Eric Snow was his co-host. So they asked me to come on, and I had literally just started Uniball a year before, so I'm like pretty fresh and pretty new. And so I just kind of come in guns a-blazing on this podcast, and I'm basically like, Doc Rivers is a fraud. We're never going to go anywhere with Doc Rivers as our coach. We should fire him now, blah, blah, blah. And then Eric Snow, I guess that made him a little bit upset, and me and him kind of got into it a little bit. So I can say I have had an argument on a podcast, a pretty heated debate with a Sixers quote-unquote legend in Eric Snow, who, honestly, if you go back and you watch that 2000-2001 Sixers team and really that whole era, the idea behind that team is kind of similar to the Derrick Rose Bulls, where like they just built a defensively tilted team around Allen Iverson's skill set, and Snow was a big part of that. Like Snow was a really good point of attack defender. He was one of the best guard defenders in the NBA, and while he shot us out of multiple series later in his career, he definitely had a nice moment in the sun for us in 2001.
Yeah, I mean, one time all defensive team, second team. And kind of like you said, the 2001 team, you were just saying that. I was like, that's how people imagine you'd build a team around like Trae Young. But then you'd have the problem of, oh, none of these guys shoot threes? Okay.
Yep. It's impossible now.
Yeah,
I think Jalen Brunson 2 years ago was or last year, but then you have Cat. Like 2 years ago was probably the closest that we'll get to that.
Yeah. Yeah, with Mitchell Robinson, Julius Randle,
Hartenstein, Julius Randle.
Right, man.
OG Anunoby, Dante DiVincenzo.
Hartenstein was a beast for them, man.
Yeah.
Beast. Well, we'll just do a snake draft. We'll get you a couple more rounds. I'm going to take the we've been in there, ain't nothing going on guy. Don't know if you've seen that guy, but he walked into some building in the Capitol and then came out. It's the infamous video. We've been in there, ain't nothing going on. That's one of my favorite Sixers ever. Because, everyone thinks of like the shaman, right? The classic QAnon shaman guy.
Sure. He'd be number one on a lot of boards.
Right. Number one Sixer for a lot of people. For me, though, I think the we've been in there, ain't nothing going on guy. Versatile, very small role, but yet excelled so well that I feel like I can project him moving forward. So that's kind of where I'm at with him.
I would say the most efficient Sixer of our lifetime, possibly.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, that one, what is it, a 5-second clip is something that we still see in meme culture to this day. I think that he really did revolutionize what it meant to be a Sixer and took advantage of the moment that he had, to be honest with you. I'm upset that you took him. He was definitely high on my board. But I do have someone that I'm not sure that you're familiar with their game, but one of my favorite Sixers of all time is Mr. Baked Alaska, who, if you don't know who he was an early guy in
live
the movement.
Streamer, right. In real life streamer.
2015, I remember he was around. He famously wrote the song "We Love Our Cops, Our Law Enforcement, We Love Our Military, They're Important," song that is near and dear to my heart, and just someone that really needs to get a shout. I do believe that he did serve some jail time and he was let out due to his involvement in January 6th, but definitely in the Hall of Fame of all-time Sixers, I would say.
That's a good one. And yeah, I didn't have him on my board, but that's just an oversight on my end because in the fact that he was an in real life streamer in 2015. I mean, think about how
Ahead of his time.
Way ahead of his time. I mean, way ahead of his time.
Steph Curry in 2014.
That's right. I mean, completely revolutionized the game before we even knew that a revolution was coming. So, okay, since it's a snake draft, you go. Maybe just a couple more picks each here.
Okay, so I'm going to just leave you. I know that you have your own personal choices for this. I'm going to go with one of my favorite voice actors of all time, Jay Johnston from Bob's Burgers.
I had him on there. I did think about him.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is that he was canceled by the woke mob, did get in trouble for some of the things that he did, and he got dropped from Bob's Burgers, one of my favorite all-time television shows, unjustly. And, if we have any future cartoons, I would love to hear him in anything. Doesn't have to be conservative, doesn't have to be necessarily anything down that lane, but hashtag free Jay Johnston is the trend that I'm starting to get going for one of my all-time favorite Sixers.
You guys write that down. Hashtag free Jay Johnston. Okay. That's a good one. That's a really good one. And I think he's been pardoned. So we can say that he's actually completely innocent.
Yes, he has been pardoned.
Completely innocent. Man, there's a lot of good picks on the board here. I'll just say these are my last two, and I'll give you the last pick. I'm going to go, I guess I'll just take the obvious pick here, and I'll say Jacob Chansley, a.k.a. QAnon Shaman. I mean, this was the face of, this is the Sixer you think about when you close your eyes and you think of Sixers. You know, that classic Colin Cowherd meme. When I close my eyes and I see, LeBron, I see the chalk. When I close my eyes and I think Sixers, I see the, this guy. Now, what I love about him is he's so versatile and multifaceted because not only did you have this thing, but he also, I don't know if you're aware of this, sued Donald Trump for $55 trillion. Filed a lawsuit, $55 trillion.
Did he win?
No, he didn't win. But let me tell you why I love that and why I can't believe this isn't a strategy people have gone to more, is if I sue somebody for $55 trillion, most lawsuits end in settlements, right? So if we start with 55 trillion, $1 billion does no longer seems like some crazy number, and then we can get to that point in a settlement.
It's a very good. That's like negotiating 101.
101, and you never know settlement numbers, so who knows how much he ended up coming away with, but it's probably pretty close to that. I'll close with my next favorite Sixer ever. I'll go Furkan Korkmaz just because the fact that he was a role player for his whole career and basically was in trade demands for about 6 years of his career and never got traded and then ended his career, and that was it.
It's very kind of you to call him a role player, to be honest with you, because he was a fringe rotation player for most of his career.
During the very late stage, well, no, I'm looking. I mean, he got some rotation burn when.
Oh, no, he did. No, but I just want to point this out. My favorite thing about Furkan Korkmaz, he doesn't get his third-year option picked up by the Sixers. So we have we couldn't have traded him because, when they don't pick up the option, then he can't even really sign with another team. It's a whole complicated thing where he would lose out, basically. So we bring him back on a veteran's minimum after not picking that up. And then he had already demanded a trade a year before. Then he demands a trade after that, and then we signed him to a $5 million per year deal for 3 years. He's out of the rotation by the end of that. He was in and out of our rotation for years, but he really only played because we were desperately in need of shooting all the time. And then he would occasionally have these games where he looked like Luka mixed with Steph, and you were like, how is this guy not getting more run? But
he's like the Jane Harden's like this on the Mavs, where sometimes if you just catch strike game, people are always like, why is he not playing more? It's like, just trust us on this one. We've been down this road a million times.
I learned last night that you cannot doubt NBA players, even if they are deep bench playing. They're all talented.
I did love that Austin Rivers was on that broadcast. Obviously, Austin Rivers is a long time rotation player, but you could sort of sense that he had this once those guys are out there and you're out on the floor,
for sure,
it's go time. And these are NBA players.
Yeah, he was living for that because he kind of lived like that. He was a rotation player, but he's someone who bounced around a ton. I mean, he played for the Rockets, the Wizards, the Clippers. He was in and out of the Wolves. He was kind of the definition of that funny enough, being kind of like a nepo baby, quote unquote, but also having like the grind set to like bounce from team to team and like fight your way into the rotation. But Corkmaz, all time legend. We'll never forget Furkan Korkmaz, one of my personal favorite Sixers of all time as well. By the way, fun fact: started multiple games for us in that Hawk series because Danny Green got hurt. So one of the things that drives me the most insane about that series is not only did Ben Simmons' brain break and all this weird shit happen during that series, but Danny Green got hurt at the we lost game 1 and then we blew them out game 2 and we blew them out game 3, and at the end of game 3 Danny Green got hurt, and then it completely flipped the series because we had to play him real minutes, we had to play George Hill real minutes, and George Hill had nothing left in the tank at that point. It was a really, really tough series and season overall for us. And probably the one that I'll regret the most, even though I think that team didn't really have a real chance to win the finals in a way that like the 2019 Sixers did or the 2023 Sixers did, which Furkan Korkmaz was a part of all of those teams. So shout out to Furkan Korkmaz.
2023 was the Celtics series meltdown, wasn't it?
That's the worst. That, in my opinion, that's the worst because I look at like the Kawhi shot is like, what the fuck can you do when an all-time player is just doing that? There is nothing that you can do to stop that. 2021, I don't think that team was good enough. Like, I think the Bucks or the Suns, if they made it to the finals, would have stomped them. And then the 2023 team, I feel like had the best chance to at least make the finals. Like, they could have beat the Heat in the conference finals. They were up at home, game 6. Jason Tatum was 1 for 13 to start the game, and then made his last 5 shots. We let him hang the whole fucking game. They didn't even show up for game 7. That was the most disappointing I've ever been in terms of a Sixers team in my lifetime. But if we're gonna draft one more favorite Sixer, all-time favorite Sixer, I normally would go with like a niche role player like Paul Reed or someone that is like a deep cut. Thad Young Thad Young was on the Sixers. I had plenty of guys throughout the years that I love. Iggy was always my guy. Like, I would defend Iggy to death at the lunch table. I used to argue that he was the best player from his draft other than Dwight Howard, and all the hoopers at school thought that it was J.R. Smith or Josh Smith. I think in time I proved to be pretty correct on that one. And then the player that I'm going to select it's not like a creative answer at all. It's Allen Iverson. Like, Allen Iverson is the reason that I got into rooting for the Sixers. He's the reason I got into basketball. My 2 favorite players in the early 2000s were Iverson and Tracy McGrady. I had both of their shoes. I had both of their jerseys. I loved both of those 2 players. And funny enough, Tracy McGrady, kind of a similar career to Joel Embiid, I would say, in terms of the injuries, the lack of availability, never having playoff success, all of that. And then Iverson, like, the 2001 run is other than the Eagles Super Bowl wins, probably my favorite sports memory throughout my whole life. Like I said, got me into basketball, why I started rooting for the Sixers, pound for pound, maybe the greatest player of all time. And someone who I think Ben Taylor did a video on him, and he talked about why he might even be historically underrated. And I would highly recommend checking that out. Like a really good team defender, good defensive playmaker, underrated passer. And like I said, they built a whole team around his weakness, which was, like actually guarding because of his size. And they made it work about as much as you possibly could. They took a game off of they're the only team to take a game off the Kobe Shaq Lakers that year in the playoffs. They swept their way to the finals, and then obviously the iconic step over game in game 1. Over Ty Lue.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be AI. Just like you can never take away, because we're probably around the same age. Like, that's Dirk for me. You can never take away I'm growing up and I have a superstar that I'm watching night in and night out. That's always going to have the special place in the heart, no matter what.
Best feeling for sure.
I
was always bummed after
the
that.
Sixers won a ring this year or next year. Is there any dethroning AI or?
Well, I would say I wonder how good that would just be. Maxey basically kind of continuing to get better throughout this season and into the next season. And then at that point, it's like if Maxey can do that in this contemporary NBA with the amount of talent that we have, with how hard it is to be a small guard and be the best player. It's always been hard to be a small guard, to be clear. But like nowadays it feels like we're getting these like super wing big guys that were just running a ton of offense. Like I think Maxey could potentially dethrone Iverson with one run, but I have a hard time. Like I love VJ and Maxey. It's going to be hard to take it's going to be hard to match the aura and how much Iverson actually meant to the city, because Iverson is the only basketball player in Philly that has ever had the cultural crossover that like the Eagles have. Yeah. Because he was really cool. Everyone, like, he was a hard worker, small guy. He fit like the Philly ethos, quote unquote, and he loved the city. So it's hard to imagine anyone passing him in my generation, at least. But I would imagine that Maxey probably has the best chance of any of these guys.
Man, that'd be so sick. As a Dallas guy, that'd be incredible. I'm rooting for him. I really am. I love him. I've been a fan his whole career. Some Sixers that I just want to shout out. The guy who stole the speaker's podium. That guy, somebody that I considered, but ultimately, just kind of a gimmicky player. Like, I don't know. Capital Mima, that's an all-time classic one. Although I will say she's a fraud, and I'll say that confidently.
Why is Mima a fraud?
She was not at the Capitol. That's a common misconception. Capital Mima was not at the Capitol. That's a fake narrative that went around. She was just Mimaing it up somewhere in Kansas.
What?
Yeah.
I've been led astray?
Yes. She is a fraud. So I scratched her off my big board.
This is like Wilt's 100-point game all over again.
100% is exactly like that. Well, thank you for coming on so much, man. It was fun chopping it up with you. Where can we find you at?
Ball on YouTube, Ball across all platforms. If you like the podcast, you like what we do, sign up for the Patreon. We got stuff going on over there all the time. You can follow us on Twitch. We're on Twitch now too. We're using that. So thank you so much for having me. This was a lot of fun. Yeah, of course. And I've been on. You guys always do some fun stuff. I went on and we watched the 2018 draft. There's so many funny clips from that. If you go back and you watch our 2018 rewatch that we did with you, we watched the Ringer party, and it was me, you, and my co-host Sam. And at one point, I said, "Paul George, please don't be Tobias Harris 2.0. LOL." You called the Pistons being really good on that stream, and multiple people have commented to be like, "Hey, you guys were wrong," and he was right about the Pistons. Really? What did I say? I don't remember that. You were like, I think the Pistons could be sneaky good this upcoming year, and they actually might be able to make the playoffs. And we were both like, I don't know about that. They just were like the worst team. Like 4 straight years. Well, it came true eventually. And then the last thing was like, it was just funny going back and watching it now that Luka has been traded, to hear talking about how stupid the teams were for passing on Luka, for trading Luka, all that stuff. And then that happens. It just recontextualizes everything that happened during that stream. So unreal that still happened, man. It's on our YouTube if you guys want to go watch it. Yeah, go watch it. Go check out. I mean, you guys do a great job. It sucks that playback, because you guys really did have a great playback room. But it's nice to hear you guys are on Twitch now too. Because I was going to ask what the play and post playback was. So it's no playback, but it works. There's nothing like playback, man. Nothing. Thanks for coming on. Thank you guys for tuning in. These are live, by the way. I saw you guys saying that. These are live. I'll be live on Thursday again, 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. I'll have Kirk in the studio. We'll talk about some Mavs stuff. Thank you all for tuning in. Subscribe, like the video, like the stream. Subscribe to Haymaker, link down in the description. Go check out the Ball podcast. Please go check it out. I love you all. I'll talk to you guys on Thursday. Mavs play at 10 o'clock tonight on the Cock. What a joke. All right, bye, guys. Who's it going to be? This is Lamar! Oh, my God! My brain's going to explode. There's something sinister afoot, absolutely.